we'll just get started. So thanks for joining us for the acu-connect monthly webinar. We're going to cover a little bit about Rockton and their RPM product, which helps you handle year-end rebates, and then share a little bit around Repay and how to shape up your AP vendor payments, which always important there. Then we get a healthy amount of time for Q&A, so don't be shy. We've got a big thank you to our charter sponsors. Acu-connect is sponsored by a number of ISVs, and we highlighted a few here. We appreciate your support. And if you're not familiar with Acu-connect, really our main reason for being is to just support and grow this network and share how we solve problems every day, and really overcome challenges and provide a strong community both for users and implementers. And I love the fact that everyone is so willing to share knowledge and inclusive, and it's free. With that, I will kick it off and hand it over to Mark from Rockton.
Thanks, Donna. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Rockwell, and I am with Rockton Software. If you're wondering if Rockwell and Rockton are related, they are. Rockton name is half mine and half my life and business partner, Kelly Sexton. We put our names together to create Rockton because very few people are looking for accounting software at sexwell.com. We are a fun company. We hopefully have, I think this is one of our retreats in Nashville picture you see there, and that's me in the blue shirt. And we like to have fun. We like to have very engaging human conversations with our customers. We've been doing this for 24, almost 25 years. And we are our virtual company all across the US in all 4 time zones. And somebody actually stationed in Florida, now working in Panama, which is kind of fun. Got over 5,000 companies and 150,000 users across the last 20 years. And we keep making more stuff. And one of the things that we're coming out with is Rockton Pricing Management. Now, we have had Rockton's OmniPrice in the Dynamics GP space before. We recreated Rockton Pricing Management about 4 or 5 years ago to be a universal pricing calculator. It also does rebates, discounts, promotions, commissions, and royalties. And this universal calculator sits outside of your ERP system and integrates with a couple different ERPs, one of them being Acumatica. And we are focusing today on things that relate to year-end, which include annual price changes, rebate management, and some holiday promotions. So jumping into annual price changes. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, that is actually correct. I forgot. We're going to explain briefly what is RPM, Rockton Pricing Management, and it's a giant calculation engine. You put things on the left, which is like a customer, an item, a date, and it spits out a price. And it can also spit out price adjustments. So when you're doing, for instance, data entry inside of Acumatica in your sales order, you type in, you put a customer in the header, you type in an item, and the price comes back as you would expect it to. We intercept the pricing logic of Acumatica and create a price from our engine. Now, along with the price, we can make price adjustments, which is where your royalties, rebates, commissions, and unlimited discounts come in, and we're able to pass those back to Acumatica and track them to the GL if necessary. It's hugely flexible and can do all kinds of calculating things, as we'll get into here in a moment. But that's essentially what it is a universal calculator. When it comes to annual price changes, one of the things that I've seen time and again in the different industries is that we're locked into a single price sheet that's only good for a certain amount of time. And sometimes people have to stay up midnight on New Year's Eve in order to get January 1st prices in. And that may not, we don't think that should be necessary. Also, if you have prices that change once a month or once a week, if you're more volatile of that. So we have date-driven price lists. You can have 2 different price lists, for instance, that serve the same group of customers or group of items, and they can have different dates on them. And then when the date just changes, it just moves over from one to the other, and both can be live at the same time. You don't have to post or submit or keep just one going at one time. And what's nice about that is you have the ability to set those things up in advance. It's nice to know that your prices upcoming are going to be changing. You already know that. Why do you have to wait until that day in order to put them in your system? I also, just as a general rule, think that you should think about price changes on an annual basis. And if you've watched the economy in the last year, if you haven't raised your own prices, you might want to consider doing so, because there's lots of reasons to. Next we have is rebate management. It actually does more than rebates, but rebates is the most common. We have this bizarre thing that happens, especially in the food industry, but there's more industries that do these rebate type things. You might buy something from a vendor for $100 and then turn around and sell it at a loss to a customer for $95, and then turn around and collect it from that vendor after the fact, $10. So I'm not sure why that happens, but there's a lot of industries that do that. With Rockton Pricing Management, we have the ability to track the fact that that $10 is due at the time of the sale. We can track that to a general ledger accrual account and pass it back, and then accrue those price adjustments or those rebates from a given general ledger, and then create a payable or receivables document to a vendor or a customer. It's very flexible in what way you can do that. And that way you can track and make sure that those rebates that you're generating are tracked and then collected. And there's a lot of customers who have this situation where they get lost, or they track on Excel spreadsheets. Did we collect this $10 for this one instance? And RPM solves the problem of tracking all of those things.
Yeah, I was just actually thinking about that. Like, how would you do it without something like Rockton? Because it would be a bunch of spreadsheets, right?
And that's exactly what we run into customers all the time. Just lots of spreadsheets.
Sounds
And yeah, it is.
awful.
And all of the data is connected, which is really, really nice.
Okay.
And then one of the other things we see is, which is good for any time, but certainly at holiday time, there tends to be a lot of promotions. What's nice about our promotions is that they are calculations that can turn off on and off based on a given date if necessary. So you can set them up ahead of time. They can replace prices, they can overlay prices, so you can have them, add a certain percentage, or it's now $5 off, or whatever you need to do. And so with the promotions being set up in advance and turning on and off, you just set it up, forget about it, and it just flows through. And if you need to, you can take that holiday promotion and track that to a general ledger, so that at the end of the year or after the promotion, you can go run a GL report and say, how much money did we give away in this promotion? And so you can compare that. Was it a worthwhile campaign? Other features that RPM handles is, of course, minimums and maximums. What's nice about the way that we're configured is that you have historical pricing. So you can always keep track of the old stuff that you had, because some of it's date driven. So you can always go back and compute a given price from the past if necessary. I've also seen in the case where you have multiple items, different SKUs or different item numbers for the same thing that are priced all the same, such as t-shirts. If you have red, green, and blue t-shirts in small, medium, large, and extra large, it's 3 times 4. And they're short sleeve and long sleeve, that's times 2. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 2 is 20, so that's 24. So that is 24 different t-shirts, but they all cost $10. Well, if they're all in a t-shirt class, you can assign pricing to just one time, $24 or $10 to the 24 t-shirts at once, versus tracking 24 individual prices for each one of those. We do all kinds of numerical calculations, percents, amounts, calculating gross margin, and we're attribute driven. So most price sheets are customer by item, and here's what it costs. We have the ability to, well, what if it's customer class? And then what if you add the item class? Now let's add the date. Now let's add the zip code that the customer is shipping it to. Now let's add this promotion that it's holiday time, and then let's add that this item is on clearance. Suddenly I've just named 7 or 8 dimensions. And as you can imagine, those dimensions get very, very complicated. And it's pretty normal that for a customer or somebody using complex pricing to have 10 or more different dimensions to the pricing. We can handle an unlimited number of dimensions. So it's kind of like the Twilight Zone, but better and more organized. And of course, we do unit measure conversions, your quantity breaks, and certainly the rounding features, such as rounding to the nearest penny, is one thing, but having your prices end in 99 cents or end in $99, or in the Costco, they have certain clearance items end in 77 cents. That's how you know at Costco that it's going to be in clearance and it's a really good deal. And with the attributes, we can drive all kinds of filtering. So a given calculation or discount or a promotion you can have it set up to apply to just specific things. How does it work? Well, RPM sits outside in a SQL database with an external website for management. So the pricing manager manages the pricing setups and rules. And then we have a connector that sits inside of Acumatica that communicates with the engine. And so it makes calls out to the engine for a price over the internet and then comes back. And because of the architecture and the APIs, we can certainly work with e-commerce and websites, which is very, very common, so that your websites and e-commerce can call our engine to get the current price as well. And we have some advanced features around that if you have more questions around that. But that, in a nutshell, is RPM. And this is this is our sales team here in the picture of them. And you can reach us at this phone number, this email address. We're not hard to find at rocktonsoftware.com. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And we're going to transition now to Repay, revolutionizing payments.
Oh, hey, thanks, Donna. This is Wade Ekman. We can go to the intro slide, show our pictures. Nicole Benitez is with me today. Nicole is the account executive at Repay that helps oversee anything Acumatica. So for customers and merchants and relationships we have within the Acumatica ecosystem, Nicole is our point of contact, and she's worked in that space for 7 to 10 years. Myself, I'm a finance person all through and through. So when we talk about payments, that's my background is around payments. Repay in general, from an overview, was founded in 2006. We're a NASDAQ publicly traded company that has about 700 employees, and all we do, we're focused on how to bring payment solutions to customers and to partners through enabled technologies such as Acumatica. And some of the challenges today, if you think of a normal accounts payable department, they're always overworked, underappreciated, and there's a lot of manual things that are happening. People are still heavily cutting paper checks. There's lots of internal processes that are not very efficient. You're trying to, well, maybe we can get the banking data from a few vendors and pay them through ACH to make it more electronic. Maybe we can try to call a couple vendors and pay them by card because they accept cards and we get a rebate or points on our card. There's lost payments, there's duplicate payments, there's all the handling exceptions you could think of. But in general, anything around transaction processing is filled with exceptions, and anything you do to automate and reduce exceptions is a big lift for organizations. So this McKinsey study from a few years back, what are organizations and companies looking for in a payment provider? I'm going to start going backwards. First, they're looking for organizations with good technology, because technology is typically the thing that helps automate manual human-based processes. Second, going bottom to top, they want ease of setup. They don't want 30,000 hour implementation or setup is similar to if you're going live with an ERP or another technology. And then lastly, they want something that is logical from a workflow and is ease of use and creates process efficiency for the team members down in their accounting, finance, and back office departments. So if you look at what it really means for automated payments, AP payments, and how Repay thinks of the world of payments, for the clients that leverage our AP integrated solutions within Acumatica, for this instance, they no longer even have to worry about cutting paper checks or even determining what the payment method is for a vendor. So what Repay does, when we talk a little bit further on about supplier enablement, vendor enablement, for our clients, all the payments are just Repay payments. And we're doing real-time decisioning when the payments are due to determine, well, this vendor will actually accept a virtual card, so it's free. We can pay them by card. We're executing the payment, and then the end customer has a free payment method, and they get a rebate back based on the interchange from the card transaction. Then if a vendor doesn't take a card as a form of payment, we're there to verify that that vendor is willing to get set up for ACH. We're gathering all the banking data around ACH payments, so you're not having to gather banking data. We're dealing with all the updates. If they update banking data when they move banks, and we're executing the ACH payments. and making sure they get electronic remittance to be able to apply the payments through ACH. And then third, if the vendor says, no, look, just I'm a one-time vendor, I'm old school, just mail me a paper check, we print and mail the checks. So for the clients that leverage our, what we call payments as a service, or total pay, the client never has to worry about even determining how the vendor is going to get paid or executing the vendor payments. They just make sure the vendors are flagged in Acumatica as repay from the payment method. We're doing all that decision and execution. And the net result is we are reducing cost, we're removing paper, we're automating payments, and we're driving a high percentage of suppliers to card, because then it actually creates revenue for the accounts payable department based on the rebates for the card portion of those payments. I touched earlier, when we say seamless enrollment, we have about 200,000 vendors that we pay on card alone. I think Repay did $26 billion of card payments last year. And the benefit there, if you think of, wow, we want to pay Staples on card, we want to pay Waste Management for the dumpsters, and our amount for data retention, or all these vendors or advertising spend that take cards. You don't want an individual person or organization pulling out a purchasing card from their wallet and calling vendors and logging on the web portals and making payments. You want it to be seamless in the system, so those vendors also go through the three-way match AP keying and coding process, but then your payment partner help facilitate those type of payments. And secondly, as I mentioned, the streamlined process, there's nothing the client or the merchant needs to do around helping get vendors enrolled in a payment method. They're just all repay payments, and behind the scenes, our team is doing real-time verification at the time of payments getting executed to verifying the payment method the vendor will accept, and optimizing to make sure if a vendor ever takes card, they're set up on card first, if not ACH, and thirdly on paper check. Hey, Nicole, why don't you jump in here?
Thank you, Wade. This is just a little bit of information about Acumatica. Of course, you guys know us on the AR side, and you know that we are omni-channel flexible. Wanted to give a quick reminder what we're integrated into aside from Acumatica and what we play nice with. But if we go on to the next slide, like Wade said, I'll also be your point of contact for AP vendor payments integrated inside of Acumatica as well. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is send this link in the group chat. If you're interested in learning more about our accounts payable automation solution, feel free to look us up right there and just give us a ping whenever you're ready.
Thanks, guys. That was fabulous. We did want to do a brief shout out about some upcoming events, and you can register for all of these from the acu-connect.com events link, except for Summit. You have to go to summit.acu-connect.com for that one. So mark your calendars, and then if you have questions about either of the things that you saw today, you can reach out afterwards here, or we have a nice little bank of time for Q&A live now. Yeah. Amy, did you see any questions come through?
Not yet.
Okay.
I am going to launch our poll.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Year-end poll.
How do we feel about your boy? I can answer, right?
No. Oh yeah, you can you? I think I'm the only one that can't, actually.
I had a couple of questions. So while we look at the poll coming up here. So for Rockton, for someone who's working in spreadsheets, not asking for a friend, what would be the first step to getting up and running with something like Rockton pricing management? What would you recommend somebody do to prepare if that's what they're doing?
Certainly have a conversation with us. If you're working in Excel and spreadsheets, that alone is a huge danger sign. One is those Excel spreadsheets tend to be on one person's desktop. They tend to be have formulas that only one person understands, and when that person goes on vacation or gets hit by a Mack truck, that's a huge problem. Furthermore, it doesn't track changes and its auditability, and pricing is also very sensitive. And so it's easy for those types of Excel sheets to get up and walk away to competitors. And Excel is just, from a management standpoint, is not the best place to store your pricing information. What we do as part of our implementation is we collect your Excel spreadsheets and we collect what's in your head, because it's amazing how many people just know their pricing, it's in their head, and they can tell you like, oh yeah, this customer under this circumstance gets this price and this other customer gets that. I'm like, why? Like, oh, it's just that's how it works. I'm like, okay, but why? And so we work with them to help them document what is the rules behind pricing, and then we systematize it into a rules-based engine that is easier to understand, easier to maintain, and is a central place of truth.
Okay. Because I mean, one of the reasons that we set this webinar up at this time slot of the year is that, you know, we are getting close to year end. And so preparing and maybe starting to get your books in order and maybe look at a better way of doing things going forward, it would be interesting to folks. And so is there ever like a good time or a bad time or a better time to do something like that? I mean, it's as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. And we often see that people are considering this as they're implementing Acumatica. We actually are in a place of helping close Acumatica deals because our pricing engine is so advanced. But the sooner the better. It's depending on, you know, how much headache you have. But if you are using Excel spreadsheets at all to manage your pricing, that's a huge sign that you need to consider or should consider something different.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mark. And then for repay questions, just, you know, I know the AP landscape is pretty crowded. And how do you recommend, at least a couple of questions you recommend with somebody looking for a solution, a new solution to help them, like you guys would help them? Are there some questions they should make absolutely sure that they ask for a vendor?
Yeah, there are. I mean, I think everything's not equal. I mean, I think most organizations are still uploading files to a bank where they have to segregate and manage the payment methods themselves. You know, so if an organization isn't going to manage the payment method on their side from a payment perspective, the work's going to fall on the shoulders of the folks in accounts payable to realize and define this vendor is a check payment. Oh, this vendor is ACH, and they're going to do all the reach out. They're going to be the one worried about fraud for the ACH payments and gathering that bank data. And they're going to be the ones marking a vendor if they take card or not, and then dealing with all those exceptions. If a card isn't being able to be paid, they have to go in the accounting system and change the payment method. So ensuring that the partner is the one that's going to hold the payment method, do all the real-time execution and determination of the payment method, and be able to deal with exceptions on the back end without the client being involved if they have to change one vendor payment from card to check or check to ACH or ACH to card is really critical.
Okay, that's helpful. I can't see questions or the chat, Amy, so I don't know if there's anything new in there.
There is one. We pay some vendors today with our purchasing card. We log in the web portals or make phone payments. Would this process help execute those payments?
Yeah, it would. And there's a couple challenges with using those purchasing cards. First, most of the time, it's a payment out around accounts payable. So people are they see a bit of bill from Office Depot, and they're just going to grab the purchase card and pay it. And it might not go through the full three-way match process, or it might be paid before it's due, before discounts are taken, before someone does the review within accounts payable. Secondly, the more plastic you have in an organization, you have rogue spend. Cards get lost, people use them for the wrong things. So having payments all go through a normal three-way AP match process is critical. But secondly, a good payment partner as Repay, we absolutely have processes built to pay any vendor that will accept a card for a supplier payment regardless process. Even if it's manual, we have to log into AT&T, find all the open invoices, key them to the penny to make sure they match what the customer wants paid, or the voice over IP, the phone systems, or if they need to be faxed in with the fax form, where OCR technology reads it, or EDI, the data across. So having all those multiple processes that are manual built in and executed on the payment partner's side is absolutely critical. You shouldn't be doing these yourself and wasting your time making manual credit card payments.
Understood. I don't see any additional questions.
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. This was, and for our presenters and Amy. We will stop sharing and wrap things up.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yes. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.